As you've heard me before, I have a problem with AI being used for portrait photography. The reason is very simple. I used to shoot film. If I wanted it to come out a particular way, I did it myself. If I just wanted a cookie cutter type of image to come out, I'd take it to a photo lab. This is the digital equivalent of a film photo lab. You're giving your photos to a system that, in this case, isn't even programmed on the way you do things. It's set up on some generic format that tries to make the image look the way they think you want it to appear. It's the exact same thing you get out of a smartphone or anything that creates a JPEG file. It applies changes to your image to make it look the way some other person thinks it should look. Now, the reason I have the biggest problem with that is the client, you, are the person that I am taking the photographs for. I'm not doing it for myself. And honestly, I think you deserve better than the bowl cut of photography. I think you deserve to have a photographer who looks at you and your style as well as their own style, but works to make that image you. You should be able to open up whatever album it is or look at any image of you and know that that's you. It wasn't changed in such a way that it's not your body shape. It's not modified in any way to change your eyes or to do anything that would be more appropriate for a creative photograph. And by that, I mean, you'll see some very stylized photographs that get done. But let's be honest. It's been a long time since a magazine cover looked like the person that they took the picture of. They make modifications. They thin the person down, especially things like Sports Illustrated and other image-based publications that they want a person to look a particular way. And I feel this is especially true on anybody who gets a bodybuilding photograph done. The photograph needs to show off your muscle definition. And I have not found any way to get an AI to give me back that image the way I would retouch it. Now, I know image in AI, I don't have enough photographs in there to see if that's actually going to be able to handle it. But none of the other commercial products that I have come across so far handle that retouching in a way that I would be comfortable giving that to a client. Would I use this to get a start on a photograph? Maybe. I do use AIs in some ways to set up some basic stuff for me, like maybe sharpening just the person as opposed to the background, or taking care of contrast and things. The basic settings of the image, not the final stuff that I would do. If you've ever seen somebody who does chainsaw art on the side of the road, you'll notice that they start off with these broad strokes, very quickly done, and then they go in and handle the very detailed work carefully and slowly. And I think that's what anybody who goes to a photographer deserves. That careful, detailed, slow work to make sure that the image looks exactly like the person it is of. The goal isn't to make it look like somebody else. The goal isn't there to take your, meaning the photographer's, vision of what a person should look like and enforcing that on the image. It should look like you at your best. That is the goal of the photography that I do. And I think it should be the goal of every photographer. Let's stop messing with the photographs and making modifications to them that don't reflect the person. And let's just make sure that the photographs that we take will perfectly reflect the person that we took. Now, you will notice in the Luminar AI that I did this week, in which I used their latest version of Luminar Neo, I did use the bokeh modification. I can do that in Photoshop. It's the same basic principle where you're selecting the person and then making the background be out of focus. So you select the person, you invert it, and you make everything else around them be less in focus, which gives you that bokeh and pulls that person out of the image, making them the star of the image. You don't really need an AI to do that. It is nice to have an AI to grab the body, however. It does take a very long time to do it by hand, and it's very nice to have something that handles that for you. But again, we're not making a big modification. We're just changing a little bit of the background, and it's not something I need to manually do. So AI does have a role in photo editing. It can make things simpler. And while it does allow us to take some of the more base work away and be more creative in making that image as realistic as possible, it runs the risk, especially among some photographers, to be their only way that they edit the photographs. So the photographs always look exactly the same as everybody else's photographs. It takes away the individuality of the person, and in a lot of ways cheapens the art form that is photography. And I say that because a lot of people see photography just as a person pointing a camera at somebody and taking a picture, forgetting about composition and all the other details that went into the selection of the equipment, etc. The photograph itself has to be handled after the image. Some people will just use the JPEGs that come out of it. They could be using anything to take the picture. I think that does a disservice to the subject of the photograph. I think the photograph needs to be taken. It needs to be handled with care and with intelligence to make sure that the image looks as realistic as possible to the original subject of the photograph. So to me, I see AI as a valuable tool to help with certain things, but not as a replacement tool for editing. And as you'll note with the image and AI stuff, I did those pictures for events. And I liked the way they came out. But I had 3,000 photographs plus another 1,000 or so that I trained that model with, so they look like mine. Do I still retouch them afterwards? In some instances, I do. I don't get back exactly the way I want it to look. So I have a little tweak here and a little tweak there. Maybe I'll make something a little stronger. Maybe I'll take it away a little bit. But the majority of the work for an event photograph, where I'm just taking a picture of a group, is done. I can't imagine that anything's going to get close enough on a portrait that I'm just going to have this do the work. Nor do I kid myself that at some point I'm going to have most of the work done on a portrait. To me, there's so many little details and so many things that I want to make sure look exactly right that I just can't imagine an AI, at least an AI price that I could afford to use an AI, would be able to do the detailed work to the level that I would feel comfortable saying it's my work and giving it to a client. I just don't see that happening. So there's a role for AI. Again, I think it's used primarily in my instances to make sure that the base work, the minor things, the little tweaks here and there are taken care of. Kind of like the way presets handle things. And then I build upon what it gives me and make the image wholly my own and as realistic as possible. That's what I got for you this week, and I'll talk to you guys next week.